Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to do a little intake testing with this new 2022, and we have some intakes from the older Groms. We're going to see if they work, and then probably get some new ones on here eventually as well. But for the meantime, went ahead and popped this side cover off already. It is the same as the other side. You have your 3 main bolts, you have 3 push pins, and then when you take it off, you almost kind of lift up. There's a little tab here and at the bottom, and then everything just comes right out. You also have another tab here. So there's kind of little push snap-in plugs. As you can see, we have our ABS module right on top of the air box. That is probably going to be one of the first things to go with this bike. I will say the ABS is pretty neat. I'm not an ABS guy by any means, but I did have to go and try it out just to see what the hype was on it for the beginner riders. I came up to a big thing of sand, just grab a handful of front brake, and could not lock the front tire up. So that was pretty neat, great for panic situations. Or newer riders just wanting to learn how hard they can apply the brakes. So, but yeah, for me, we're gonna take that off, probably get a Brembo RCS 14 on the front, get some stainless lines, and be ready to roll from there. So, EBC pads as well. We like those HHs on the Groms. But yeah, let's go ahead and take this air box off. It doesn't look too bad. Similar to the old Grom, you got a bolt on top. Let's see here. Looks like just your air temp sensors on the left side. You do have another mounting tab in the back here. So we got 2 on the right side. There's probably something behind the ABS module. All right, so let's get that taken off there and see what intakes work. All right, guys, so we got some intakes to do some fitment checks on. The stock airbox actually only came off with the 2 bolts. This is actually just an ABS bolt on the top. It was pretty simple. Had the one on the one side, one on the other side, and then just disconnecting your IoT sensor, disconnecting your crankcase vent hose, and loosening obviously your clamp there, and that intake came right off. You did not have to remove the front fender or anything, so that's nice. Intakes, so we have kind of a slew. I have a box of intakes over there that we do a lot of testing with, a lot of different tunes with. That is the old Chimera, the old man in the box, the dinger built for the Grom, dinger built for the Monkey. That's the DHM with his plate in there, and then the D. All right, so fitment wise, let's take that Chimera, kind of hold it up. I'm gonna say no go on this one. The crankcase vent tab actually hits the frame right here, so you could cut that off or plug it, and you could probably work. It'd be running kind of in a down slope. So again, this is for guys who already have Groms and might want to swap their intakes over. Next we have the old man in the box, and I do believe they're working on a new man in the box specifically for this bike. This one, when I tested it just a little bit ago, it would fit if you were to cut down a little of the length here. As you can see, the throttle body's straight on this bike. Unlike the last one, it was angled just a little bit. So you only have about a 4-inch gap, 3-inch gap there. But I'm not gonna cut this one up. That's gonna be for our test bike. We're still making a lot of tunes with the man in the box stuff. So this is for the Grom short ram. And this would be kind of like a side, basically a side exit intake if you were to go that way. It's not going to be able to wrap around enough, whereas the Monkey has this extra little weld on the back, and the Monkey would work in a couple different configurations actually. Now, one thing I'm not showing is the IAT location, which this was one of his earlier prototypes, so it doesn't even have that on there, but I don't know if we're going to need an extension harness. Where's that plug at? It's around on the other side. So like with the Monkey, some of them you have to run a little extension for the IoT sensor. This one, we're definitely gonna be in the same boat. You barely have any room to work with. It's gonna have to basically come right off the throttle body. Or just leave your IAT up high. You can leave it disconnected. It doesn't have to be in the intake track. It only makes fuel changes about every 20 to 30 degrees. And those changes are usually only about 1% to 2% within the ECU. Next, we got the mid-length. And I would say you could definitely make the mid-length work. Could probably rotate it a couple, let me get it flush there. Probably rotate it a couple different directions actually. That's about as high up as you're going there. So the Dinger built stuff is all American made, handmade by David Dingwell himself. Got some excellent welds. Pretty good dude. Let's see, all of this is done in-house. Move over to the DHM. That is gonna run a CNC plate in there, in which you'll put the plate on first, and then there's a little set screw on top to tighten the throttle body. There's no filter for this one, so you could probably maybe get a 3D print, or well, you could probably work something out to put a filter on this fairly easy. And that would work no problem. So you can get a couple different angles out of this one. So let's go ahead, and I'm just gonna throw one of these short ram, probably throw this monkey intake on here for quick test and see what we're looking at versus the stock air box with the Yosh. All right guys, so we just got the Dinger on there for a quick test to see kind of what we're gonna be looking at with the short ram intake. So intake wise, as you go with like a longer setup, you start picking up some more low and mid range. You're gonna lose out on the top end a little bit, whereas as you start getting shorter, a little bigger setups, you start getting more top end gains, and you lose a little throttle response and down low power. But there is a fine line both ways. You go too big and too short, too small and too long, you're gonna lose power across the board. So the key is really finding that sweet spot with the intakes. And let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Guys, so we just buttoned up the short ram intake test, and that is the monkey intake. So it has that extra little tight bend at the back to clear the frame. And final results, it definitely leans out in the top end. We're up into the 14s there fuel wise. Again, the stock intake with just the Yosh and the backfire screen removed, which we saw no gains with that backfire screen removed like we did with the SF and the OG. But fueling wise, pretty darn good with just a pipe across the board. Stays within that pretty much that 12-13 or 12, it's like 12.1 is as low as we get, a little rich in the mid-range, but from that 7,500 up, 12.8 to 13.1 across the board, so it's pretty solid. With that said, we are definitely seeing some big gains with the short ram intake. We lose across the entire low and mid-range area. That can be found with some tuning. As you can see, we're very rich on the short ram intake, lean on the top end. We're seeing a 14% increase from this, I think it's right at 8,200 RPM on up to redline. So if you guys are on back roads or wide open everywhere from basically 6,800 RPM up, the short ram intake's the way to go. If you're a stunt rider, you want that low end torque, that throttle response, that stock air box, or a longer intake is gonna be the hot ticket. So we'll play with some intakes more as we get the tuning side going on this bike. We do have an A-Racer RC2 on the way today from Steady Garage. Thank you guys. And we are going to play with the injector settings a bit, see if we can't find some power, play with the ignition timing, see what the numbers are looking like, and build a custom map for this thing. We do have a camshaft to test out here soon, and we'll do another video on the install. That sticker alone is worth the power, so that was pretty sweet. Aside from that, that concludes today's for now, and we'll get that A-Racer on for the next video.